Hey, Mobile, John Ricchetti, get ready to raise a glass. Golf Distributing is celebrating its new downtown headquarters with beers and cheers with golf on Dolphin Street. Join the fun Thursday, October 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m. and enjoy drink specials featuring your favorite Golf Distributing brands like Miller Lite, Coors Light, Red Bull, and more, all while supporting the restaurants and retailers that make Mobile special. Come downtown, grab a cold one, and celebrate with Golf Distributing. We are proud to call downtown Mobile home.
Welcome to this special episode of Lagnapod. I'm Rob Holbert, your host, along with Kyle Hamrick.
Hello.
And today we have Mayor Sandy Stimson.
Good afternoon.
Sandy, glad to have you in here. It's your short time in here. You got only a few days left as mayor.
I'm not counting, Rob, but if you ask Jean, she would tell you 17 days.
Right. So, yeah, your wife is definitely counting, huh?
That's right.
Well, I guess the first thing I wanted to ask you is just the if you can cast your mind back to this day when you decided to run for mayor 12 years ago, more than 12 years ago, was there any moment that made you think that you wanted to do this and could do this?
No, it was a series of steps that really led me up to it. One is, first was the recognition that the belief that the city of Mobile was going in the wrong direction. This was my home.
Right.
And feeling like that somebody needed to do something and having, let's say, built a little bit of confidence of some sort through being involved with the Chamber of Commerce and being the chairman of that and then the chairman of BCA. I thought, I hope somebody else will do this, but if they don't, maybe I should. And then some questions were asked. People get said, when you're running for office, and I think you've heard some of this before, and I don't know when running for anything. And they asked Jean, they said, when's he running for governor? And she said, he's not. She said, I don't know, but when he does, he'll be married to his second wife. So I was pretty sure that if I ever ran for anything, it wasn't going to be governor. But, she and I started talking, and I told her one day, I said, Jean, I really don't want to get to heaven and God say, Sandy, I kept sending you messages. And the messages were, when are you running for office? It was never when are you running for mayor, but just, so I didn't see why they were asking me that, but that caused she and I to really have a serious conversation, multiple serious conversations. And so that's how it finally evolved. And I often tell the story of talking to my business partners who are my brother and cousins. And my brother said, no, you absolutely can't do it. We can't run the company without you. And my first cousin said, absolutely, you've been training all your life to do this. Go get them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then as talking to my 4 children and my youngest daughter, Nancy said, Daddy, you have to run. And I said, no, honey, I really don't have to run. She said, oh, yes, you do. And I said, well, why do you say that? And she said, because you couldn't live with yourself knowing you could make a difference and you didn't even try. Mm. And so, it just became more validation the further along we got. Of course, I had no clue what it was going to be like to campaign.
Yeah.
Danny Sheridan gave me a lot of confidence, telling me I had one chance in 100 of winning.
I don't think that. I'm pretty sure it was 1 million. I'm pretty sure it was bigger than 100. I know it was one.
He didn't give me
that's how Danny and I actually got to know each other, arguing about that one. But
anyway, so that's how we got here. Yeah.
Well, I mean, was it? You talk about that those odds that were talked about at that point. I mean, it was roundly seen as an impossibility by a lot of folks. I mean, just this concept that you were going to beat Sam Jones, and did that part enter into it very much? I mean, this concept of what if I get beat?
As strange as this may sound, I just felt like that we were going to win.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, the only time Gina and I ever had a conversation, I think she had that same sense. We were sitting there in kind of a green room waiting for the election results to come in. And she looked at me and said, what are we going to do if we lose?
that thought hadn't crossed her mind. Huh?
I said, I don't know. Well, it wasn't but a few minutes after that, somebody walked in and said we won. And so
I had, I just from my standpoint, I remember after I had never met you prior to that. And when you came in and talked to us, I didn't know you. And I just thought, this guy's got no chance. I have no idea who this guy is. And, he had been involved in politics. And after you came and sat down with us and talked for a little bit, I thought, well, he seems like he could have a good chance. And it wasn't very long before, after watching things, I looked and I thought, I think he's going to win this thing. But that was, I think 6 months out, I remember getting in a maybe a little bit of an argument with somebody at the Griffith Shell one day. I wasn't arguing with he got mad at me when I said I think Stimson's going to win. Guy told me I was a lunatic, and he also showed up at your victory party that night. Anyway,
Rob, as I think back on that, you talk about the 6-month period. I was watching Spiro in this campaign, and of course, when you first start this and you've never done it, you're so handicapped by lack of knowledge and lack of confidence in front of the crowd, and I told somebody they were concerned about Spiro and the debating and all, and I said, y'all have forgotten how bad I was. I said, Gene reminded me recently that I wasn't just bad, I was horrible. And I said, but as you watched Spiro, he got better. Yeah. And it happens. But you've got to do it. You can't talk about it. You got to do it. And so I'd say that a lot of those engagements, put you where you need to be. And also it also kind of hones you into understanding what some of the expectations are going to be when you become the mayor. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't expose it all, but it certainly, gives you an idea.
Well, that kind of leads where I was going to go next is, when you look at it now and look at it from that point back then, if you can remember what were your perceptions of the job, and was it a lot different once you started doing the job when you were running for it for the first time and thought, this is what it's going to be like to be mayor? Was it like that, or was it not like that?
No, it wasn't like what I thought. Okay. And simply because you have to check to get something done, you have to check so many more boxes than you do in the private sector. I mean, there's so many different approval levels that you've got to make sure that they get done. And, part of that is just the political process of dealing with the city council, and also just dealing internally with staff and procedures of the way you do stuff in the city and the way you can't do stuff. So the most important person initially was Ricardo Woods from a legal standpoint. These are the guardrails, and thank goodness. I mean, that's my first recommendation to any mayor, is to make sure that you've got sound legal advice. And then at the time, Colby Cooper was chief of staff, and he was the right guy at the right time. I mean, he helped organize the office. He did a great job in helping us, get the team together. But George Talbot, was one of the early hires, and George has, an incredible amount of finesse and intelligence and just a sense of the direction. They can read a room. So then we started with that initial team, and you put Paul Wesch in there. So we walked in day one. I felt, as good as I guess one could feel, not knowing anything about being the mayor. Yeah. So we were all other than Colby having governmental experience, Paul had no governmental experience. George had none. And Ricardo had some just tangentially, from doing what he was doing. But, and maybe that was good, maybe not knowing that we couldn't do certain things, maybe not from a breaking the law standpoint, but not knowing that this was a mountain to climb. We just looked at it as this is what we had to do. Yeah. It's like when we had to rebudget, we had to recast the budget. It's like, if what we've got isn't going to work, then you don't just keep on going on hoping it's going to work.
Was it when you walked in and, again, recasting the budget, things like that, were there challenges that you didn't anticipate seeing just from the standpoint of what was left behind?
Oh, yeah.
I know the answer to that.
I don't really don't want to rehash a lot of that stuff, but it was unbelievable, and anyway. So what we decided to do was that we were not going to try to look into what had happened in the past.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have the time or the resources to do that. We had to figure out the direction that we were going to go in and what we had to do to get there. And so that's where all the energy was focused. How do we, and knowing that we had, almost 2,000 city employees, they're wondering who this guy is. Right. And one of the first things I had to tell them was they're not going to be a raise.
Right.
And that's not endearing yourself to all the people that are going to make you successful.
Right.
But I think over a period of time, we won their confidence through the way we did things and how we treated them, which is, there's so many reasons for, let's say, if we look back and if somebody makes comments about being successful, you can't do that without the support of the team.
That's true.
And that's all the way down to the guys picking up trash.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Was there something that you look at and think about that was an initial challenge that kind of came out of nowhere that really kind of helped your team come together?
So, usually when your back is to the wall and you have no way to go but forward, then it makes everybody focus on it. And I would say today, if I were to be writing a story or book, I would tell you first that I think that casting a vision was very, very helpful. And really, it was a campaign slogan. It's about one mobile. Right. And you've heard me say that about uniting the city in a very fractionated community, country. And we never tried to let that interfere. It was always about how do we bring people together. And I think that was hugely important as far as keeping focus. But when our back was against the wall, really had to do with the budgeting, and everybody had to get involved with that. I mean, down to a couple of levels. I mean, and when I looked at the organizational chart, and over the 12-year period, we probably changed the organizational chart probably 8 or 9 times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. And a lot of it had to do with personalities, about somebody can do more than what they're doing. And we need to take this away from them. But when you do that restructuring and when you do rebudgeting, that can coalesce the team, and which I think that it did. And especially by the time we got to the end of that first year and we ended up with a surplus, people thought, wow.
That had to feel good, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank goodness for Paul Wesh.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then when you think about it too, kind of generally speaking, what was your favorite part of being mayor?
Being picked up every morning.
Picked up.
and being picked up at my house every morning, and the parking, excellent.
Great parking.
Great parking. Yeah. And so what am I going to miss the most? Being picked up every morning and the parking.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that's the interesting thing. I used to think about Mayor Dow, and I think, why in the world does he need a policeman riding around with him? Well, that was a different story. But I would be a strong proponent of anybody that's the mayor, especially of a city our size, that you're in the car a lot and being able to text, make phone calls.
Yeah.
You don't lose that time. And when you pull up to a meeting, you're right there at the door. And it's just a time saver. It's a efficiency thing. I look at somebody like Joe Bonner doing what he does, and I'm thinking, the university, would be smart to let somebody, whether it's a student or somebody, drive him around just because you have just so many hours in the day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you get a lot done when you're riding along.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you can get a quick nap too. Rob,
you can.
That's really good.
If you need one,
if you're really good.
I would love that. That's a good idea. I just do that while I'm driving most of the time.
Okay. Yeah. Least favorite part of being mayor?
City council meetings.
City council meetings, but you know that you could nap there if you needed to.
And now some of the stuff that's being said, you really can't sleep through it.
Yeah. Have those gotten easier over time? I know it was, at the beginning it was a little tough.
It's, in that situation, Rob, it's really, to me, it boils down to personalities.
Yeah.
I mean, you have different people have different personalities, have different agendas, and they're going to use it as a forum to, promote something. So, yes, in this third term, our relationship with the city council has been much better. CJ is really grown in the job.
Yeah.
I mean, CJ, I think, has done a magnificent job as a city council president. And what we were able to do is that Jim Barber and I meet with CJ every Monday at lunch, and we go over what the agenda is. And so, we're not surprising each other.
Yeah.
And there was can't say that prior to the third term because there was the dynamics were just different, and
Sure.
there were surprises. We'd be surprised or we'd surprise them, and I'm not saying that we completely solved all that, but there were a lot fewer surprises in the last 4 years.
It has seemed a lot less political in this last 4 years.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
No, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't seem like there's anybody on the council at this point who has a real political desire maybe to go elsewhere.
If there is, they haven't, I haven't heard it, whispered or otherwise.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the meetings, as a matter of fact, the meeting I had with Mayor Jones in his office when I was mayor-elect, he told me, he said, Sandy, the biggest challenge you're going to have is the city council trying to usurp your authority, and because they all would like to be the little mayor of each of their city council districts. And he was exactly right. And I don't see that today. It did exist with some of the early council.
Yeah, I think it came up pretty quick in the if I remember correctly, that there were some efforts to sort of move some authority back to the council, right. Wasn't there? Yeah.
And we had to resolve all that. But my encouragement and challenge to the city council to be sworn in on November 3rd and to the new mayor is that if they both stay in their lane, things work.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason that it's done. And I've even, and you're not asking the question, but I'll say it. And early on, I was thinking that the Zogby Act and the supermajority was just a horrible thing. And as I reflect on it, I'm not so sure that it's benefited the city of Mobile. And I think in the future, it could benefit the city of Mobile. We've learned to live with it. And when you get 5 votes, that means you have a supermajority.
Yeah.
If something passes, that means a supermajority of the city is for it.
Right.
And so
you've reached compromise in some capacity.
That's exactly right. You've reached a compromise that the majority of the people are going to be supporting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. What project are you most proud of when you look back?
So I like to answer that by saying this, that I'm not talking about projects initially. I want to talk about 2 things that are different. One is that we all talked about the city of perpetual potential, and that was the image of the city. Over the period of time, I think that image has gone away. We don't hear that talked about now unless you're talking about what it used to be.
Right.
And I think that's huge, but it wasn't just something Sandy did or my administration did, but, Airbus, when Airbus shows up and starts building airplanes, that's an image changer. So all the things that have happened collectively have changed the image of the city, which I think bodes very well. The next thing I'd say is that the city is teed up right now for what I think could be unprecedented growth and economic development and growth. When you look at what annexation could do from a financial standpoint with a funding mechanism as we go forward. So we're teed up for the next administration to do things that possibly we could not do.
Yeah.
And so those are 2 things, as I say, at a 50,000-foot level. Then if you drop down from that, and say you get to 30,000 feet, the things that we've done that I think are important. One is that the things we've done in public safety, I think are paying huge dividends, and it's a whole series of them, and probably, and we could give you information and y'all could write about it, but, there's been a 61% drop in Part 1 crimes since 2013. And so there were I think it was 13,000 Part 1 crimes in 2013. Okay.
When we say Part 1, what exactly?
Murder, robbery, rape, aggravated assault.
Okay.
It's like 7 things that are there. Okay. But that's the main numbers. And so if you look at the Gulf Coast Technology Center, the collaboration of all the law enforcement agencies focusing on the bad guys, that's helped. What we've done more recently that's less known is really collaborating with the judiciary, and that's with the presiding judges of circuit judge, district judge, the sheriff's department, where the heads of all of these, we get together and have conversations about what can we do to work better together. Well, part of that outcome of that was we realized that the district attorney's office is tremendously underfunded.
Yeah.
And they just didn't have enough prosecutors. And we were behind there'd been a huge backlog left from COVID. And we were convinced by Keith Blackwood that if he had some additional money to hire additional prosecutors, that it would improve, their situation and improve the crime. And so we took a risk and presented it to the city council and agreed to give them $500,000 a year. And so that is something that we could have turned around and said the county, the state, they need to do that. The county actually matched our dollars on that, but it made a difference. Okay. And the difference it made is it reduced some of that backlog. It actually put people where they should be, or either it released them.
Yeah.
Right? And so those two parts of public safety are things that I think that have helped us. And then everything we've done from a pay structure standpoint to reduce the turnover, we almost have a full complement of policemen now. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. So that's, the public safety is big. When you just think about quality of life, I can talk there, but I'm just going to leave it there so I can answer y'all's questions. But there's several quality of life projects that have occurred that are hugely transformative.
Such as?
The arena is going to be hugely transformative from the standpoint of being able to get the best entertainment, to come back to Mobile like it used to be.
I don't think people understand what that's like, right?
Yeah. You cannot get a hotel room hardly in Birmingham on the weekends now because of everything they have going on from an entertainment standpoint.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that we do realize that.
We've just become used to it.
That's exactly
decades and decades of not having that. People are used to that.
And so that's going to be big. And when Brooklyn by the Bay is built out, that's going to be big. I think I even think of Amtrak as being a quality of life thing. When the airport gets completed, that'll be big. So those are things that are hugely important, but down even more granular than that, all the work that's been done at our city parks, the playing fields, the bathrooms, the splash pads, so that the neighborhood things are better. That makes a difference. And so that gets buy-in to, we're seeing our city dollars being spent in our neighborhood, and that goes back to the penny sales tax. So all that's good. And then the one project that's still out there, and I think in the next, 60 days, you'll have more direction on it. It has to do with the bridge.
Yeah.
And we'll see what that holds. Just,
what bridge?
That's right. Obviously not a city project, but one that's very important.
Yeah.
And even the port, y'all saw all the stuff from the port and the airport. When what Robin Hayes said about Alabama and Mobile, about the workforce development, I told Bradley Byrne and his team, I said, y'all need to replay that, at least once a day on the radio because that's telling the world that Mobile, from a workforce development standpoint, has got their act together.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you look back at it, are there any things that you say, I wish we'd handled it a little differently, or not at all? Or
the thing that's that I really wish that we had made more progress is in the area of the public housing.
Yeah.
And we've stumped our toe. We've aired, others have aired, and it just has not moved along like I thought it would.
Why has that always been such a difficulty here? It has been a difficulty under
30 years.
The last 3 mayors.
Yeah, that's right. It's just I don't know what their challenges were. I do know what their challenges were. It's just a huge bureaucracy, and it's difficult to move that ball forward.
Yeah.
But I think that we've got a couple of people in place right now internally in the city that really understand it better than people normally do, and that you're going to see more progress made in the next 4 years than what we've been able to do in the last 10.
That's great.
Yeah.
You touched on One Mobile.
Yeah.
How do you feel that has come together?
So, it'd be interesting. I think that when you say One Mobile, people conjure up different images in their mind, what that means. But from my standpoint, what was mean was not that we all were singing Kumbaya and we all agreed on everything, but that we were working toward a common goal.
Uh-huh.
And that common goal was really to improve the city of Mobile. It's like that analogy I gave about being in a relay race. I'm taking that baton, and when I hand it off, we want everything to be better than when we received it. And so I would say, other than in the area of public housing, everything probably is better. I mean, I could make a case that everything is better than what it was. And so if you look at it through within that framework, I would say that that we're better off in One Mobile. That vision has worked. We're safer. We're more business friendly, and we're more family friendly.
Yeah. Do you think when you look at other cities that across this country that are having, a lot of strife in various ways, and we look at Mobile and say that doesn't seem to happen here as much? Is that some part of this?
Well, it can happen here.
Yeah.
I mean, it can happen here. And it comes back to how you address critical issues. And within our team, we're very fortunate or blessed to have people that looked through different lens than Sandy looked at it. And the person that took me to task the first time was Diane Irby.
Mm-hmm.
I'd put together a little team, and she asked me, she said, "Mayor, how many women are on that team?" And I kind of shook my like it shocked me, and I thought, well, I didn't have any. And she said, "Well, do you think everybody thinks like y'all think?" And I said, "Not anymore." And the same thing would be true for African Americans.
Yeah.
So when you say everybody needs a seat at the table, that's why everybody needs a seat at the table, because we don't all look at things the same way, and we don't have the same sensitivities. And if you're going to try to have enough harmony in the city to move it forward, you've got to be careful not to just be flagrant and step on somebody or slap them inadvertently, because you can offend people just because you didn't know or you didn't ask.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We look at things like, I think you can look at downtown, you can look at a lot of the city that's come a long way in many years, but obviously it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Things like litter and blight. How do you see that? I know you're working on something at this point to try to get through, and maybe it may not make it before you leave, but how do you see that moving forward?
So, when we addressed the blight, it was really about the neighborhood blight.
Yeah.
Because you just wasn't anybody going to go in any of these neighborhoods and build anything as long as you had all these blighted structures. I still have, in this area, I have a little bit less sensitivity about some of the old houses. Now, there are historic houses and there are old houses.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It seems that some people want to think that everything that's old is historic. Well, to revitalize a neighborhood, people either got to be willing to build something new or they got to rebuild what's there. And on countless occasions, we've gotten held up, in blight removal. That's demolishing something. And, what happens is you get a homeowner that comes down there and they haven't done anything in the house in 20 years, but they beg for another 6 months or whatever. But I think sometimes the city council is not thinking of the negative impact of all the other neighbors around there. And so when it comes to the downtown area, it's the same thing. And it's only, to get some of these things passed, you need the city councilor of that district to support it. Well, we've been wanting to do something about downtown blight. And finally, I think we're in that spot, post-election, to get it done. And I think it will be one of the best from a legacy standpoint. If we can get that passed where people can't just sit on a building and not do anything and it just costs them just taxes, it's going to create, this can be a cause for change, for them to do something, either fix it or sell it. And that's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't sit there and have these buildings looking like they look.
Right.
And through all the challenges, through all the good things, what kept you coming back to work every day?
That's a good
and
question.
every 4 years too.
So I grew up in the sawmill business. It was almost as tough as what I'm doing now. And you just I got a text from a young man that's one of my son's age, and he was talking about he knew I was feeling under the weather, but he said, I saw that you went into work, and he made some comment about it. And my comment back to him was, I said, when you're in high school and you're on the athletic field, you're told by the coaches you got to learn to play while you're hurt.
Right.
And, and so you have a responsibility, and, you don't always feel 100%. You don't always feel good about what's going on around you. But if you accept that responsibility, then you need to stay engaged in the game. And so there are a lot of things, y'all, that are fun about being the mayor, or let's say gratifying. Some people may not look at it as fun, but being able to promote the city of Mobile and convince people that things are going in the right direction, that they should put their company here, and then realizing that you've got to connect them with this person or that person for it to all come together. That's very gratifying to be able to do that. And meeting people that you otherwise wouldn't meet. And so that's the fun part of it. The things that can be a little bit burdensome is that everybody would like the mayor, whether it's Sandy, Sam, Mike, they'd love for the mayor to be there, and there's only one of you, and so you can't do it all, and so you disappoint some people along the way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's one part of the job that to me seems very difficult is just to go have dinner or to do something like that, to spend quality time with your family.
Yeah.
Is that something you've struggled to be able to do?
So I would say I was very fortunate that all my children were grown. Mm-hmm. It's going to be more of a challenge for Spiro than it was for me. I mean, Jean was, God bless Jean. She's the most wonderful lady I know, and she's just as sweet and kind on the inside as she is pretty on the outside, but she was beyond tolerant. I mean, if I said we need to go do this, Rob, I'm not exaggerating. There wasn't a single time that she didn't just say, okay, let's go. And I knew that's not where her heart was.
Right. Yeah.
But she felt that was her responsibility to support me, and that's what she was going to do, and she gets an A+ for it. Yeah.
Well, it's nice to have that kind of support, I'm sure.
Oh, let me tell you, I could walk into a hostile environment. If Jean was with me, all of a sudden some of that hostility left the room.
Yeah.
So it was good.
I'm sure she's excited though about the opportunities not to have that.
No, excited is not the word. She's beyond excited. But she's told me that I've got to go find something to do between 8 and 5.
Yes. Well, yeah, you got to keep busy.
Absolutely.
When you look at Mobile in 10 or 20 years, and you look forward, what things do you see for the city that maybe are a result of the things y'all have been able to accomplish in the last 12 years? Making this a tough question.
Well, I don't, what I think we can't predict, it's like I don't believe anybody could have predicted that Novellis was going to come to Baldwin County.
Yeah.
So with all that we've done, I think it's very difficult to predict who may show up wanting to do something that's not being done today.
Yeah.
But I think there'll be things that are happening around the University of South Alabama, either from a medical perspective or just the university perspective, that we really can't, pin the tail on the donkey right now and say this is what's going to happen because of it. But under President Bonner, with his enthusiasm and his ability to get things done, he and Andy Kent are doing a terrific job. So I think that it's hard to predict, but today we see all the companies basically continuing to invest in themselves, and when they invest in themselves, that typically means some kind of new opportunities for the employees.
Mm-hmm.
And so, from I think a perspective of across the city spectrum, you will see people that maybe were frozen into where their jobs were. There weren't job opportunities. They were scared to move laterally, to maybe have an opportunity to go up. You're going to see more opportunities for individuals, which is going to create a challenge for some companies, but it's going to make everybody better because they're going to have to be on their game to make sure their employees want to stay with them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could wave a magic wand and give Mobile something it doesn't have, what would that be?
A bridge.
That quick, huh? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a good one, especially if you could do it before spring.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's, and I'm not, I mean, I know that's pretty quick and can be laughed at, but truly that's what, to optimize the airport, to optimize the port, the bridges are going to be very, very important. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, there'll be gridlock. Even the gridlock that occurs downtown with people trying to get through the Bankhead Tunnel. The merchants downtown will pay a price because people can't get around downtown. And one of the most exciting projects, could be the new Riverwalk Hotel.
Yeah.
Their opportunity to put a lot of condominiums in there. There's some, I'll say, rudimentary marketing surveys, or some surveys, maybe not marketing surveys, but they recognize that they can sell condominiums there. And so if you have office and condominiums, and I think it's going to create upscale shopping that I don't think you'll ever have downtown Mobile going into Dolphin Street or anywhere downtown, but with the new configuration of Water Street, some properties opening up at the foot of Dolphin at RSA and across the street, there's room for 2 or 3 new buildings. And so in that little area, you could have upscale shopping, which would be really transformative for the city.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that I would, ask you. You're looking at downtown Mobile, and I know we always talk about downtowns a lot, but it is, I think every city has to have a healthy downtown to be a healthy city, and certainly our downtown's come a long way, but that seems like something we're really missing. Is that really where you see the city should be focusing in that regard?
No great city without a great downtown. I think to have a great downtown, you do have to have upscale shopping.
Yeah.
And having another hotel will help the convention situation, get maybe better conventions than what we have. You're going to see more opportunity, I think, from a cruising standpoint. And when the whole waterfront's built out with what's going on with the Jimmy Buffett and Gulf Quest and coming down through the cruise terminal, back up through Cooper Riverside Park, I mean, if we can get people safely where they're comfortable back and forth across Water Street, it's going to be a game changer.
Are you feeling a little bit better about Gulf Quest? As you mentioned it, I mean, in terms of, I know when you got here, that was sort of a lost sheep at that point. And
so I do feel better because I think I think the Jimmy Buffett exhibit will be a game changer, and this exhibit that they're going to have for the Delta is going to be a very immersive, great experience. And so I think that you'll see Gulf Quest will have found its way, within another 18 months. It'll be, and it's already doing much better than it was. Karen Poth has done a terrific job just with what she had to work with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And there's a 2-part one here. Kind of, what was the biggest lesson that you learned in office? And with that in mind, what would your advice be to Mayor-elect Spiro Cheragatis?
Well, first you got to be able to count to 5. It takes 5 votes.
Yes.
And it's better to count those votes before you vote, if you can. And And Jimmy Barber has done a terrific job working with the city council between he and Keisha Brown, trying to communicate with them on issues, ordinances, resolutions, and just that whole communication. So the most challenging thing is getting 5 votes. And so my advice is to make sure that the right people are in place so that you have that communication with the city council, because once you gain the trust of the city council, you trust them, they trust you, the speed at which you can make things happen really shortens. Instead of holding something over for a month, stuff, they'll go ahead and vote it on the next week.
Yeah.
And so that's how you're going to move the ball forward, is making sure that you are forthright and you explain things, to them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Well, so tell us what life's going to be like as Citizen Sandy. What is your plan for life after being mayor?
Again, I really don't know. I kiddingly say I'm going to do whatever Gene says, but I hope it involves more hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
But there are things I think that if Mayor Spiro is interested in me helping, being able to keep pulse on the airport construction, being able to maybe keep a little bit of a pulse on the arena project, and the bridge project, could be helpful, maybe as some type of liaison. I'd like to be readily available to do that.
Yeah.
If he's got people in place where they really don't need me, I'm fine with that too. I'm not looking to have an office and don't expect to have an office in City Hall. I don't want to go to his meetings, but I want to be available. If he wants to send me somewhere to represent him, I want to be able to assist in doing that. The bottom line is I want to do, in the short term, whatever it's going to, I want to do whatever I can to help make him successful. But I say that short term because there comes a point in time where that's got to change and it's got to be all him.
Yeah. Right.
So,
right. Well, is there anything else you want to tell our listeners, readers?
I would say, being in the business that Lagniappe is in, you have friends and enemies. You have people, the critics, and want to throw rocks at you. But from my perspective, I think that y'all have done a terrific job. Y'all have,
thank you.
You have, we've had a relationship to where if we had an issue that we would come and we didn't dodge you.
Nope.
If you wanted a question asked, we had enough sense to realize we needed to come just tell you, the deal.
I've always said you never said no, didn't take the phone call. And that's a big thing.
I think that's hugely important for anybody in elected office, a position, especially in Mobile and the mayor's office. So I thank you all for what y'all have done.
Oh, well, thank you.
And I really believe that the best is yet to come. It's been a huge, obviously the privilege of a lifetime to be able to represent the city. And so that's thank y'all for the opportunity and thank you for y'all's support.
Absolutely.
One day I'll have all the pictures of Sandy on front of Lagniappe when I'll have them on a wall somewhere.
That's right. There we go. Well, Mayor, thank you so much for your time today, and thanks for your service. And we'll, I'm sure we'll be in touch as we go along here.
Good. Looking forward to it. All right.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank y'all.
Have a great day. Thank you.
The Lagnapod is a Something Extra publishing production. Executive producers are Rob Holbert and Ashley Trice. Music is by Some Pulse Sounds and Electro Animals. Only subscribers like you have access to this podcast. Tell your friends they can sign up at my.lagniappemobile.com. For advertising opportunities, please call 251-450-4466.